You make a call. It feels right. You've done this before. You trust your judgment, but the system says something different. A recommendation, a warning, a safer option. You hesitate, not because you think you're wrong, but because if you ignore it, and something goes wrong, it's on you. In hospitals using systems like Epic systems, and in aviation environments governed by automated protections from companies like Airbus, that hesitation is already part of the process. In some environments, ignoring the system is now riskier than following it, even if you're right. And once that happens, the final decision doesn't fully belong to you anymore, not because it was taken from you, because it became too risky to use. There was a time when the decision ended with a person. Experience mattered, judgment mattered. Responsibility sat with the individual making the call. A doctor decided, a pilot acted, a manager chose, and whatever happened next belonged to that decision. When humans make the final call, authority and responsibility remain aligned. You still expect this, that the person in charge decides, that their judgment is what matters most. That belief is what makes accountability feel clear. Someone chose, so someone is responsible. That link feels direct, stable, understandable, because the person making the decision carries the weight of it. They own the outcome. They explain it. They stand behind it. That's what makes authority feel grounded. It has a source. Now systems don't just assist decisions. They evaluate them, score them, compare them against patterns. In healthcare, platforms like Epic systems integrate risk models that suggest treatment paths based on large-scale data. Doctors can override them, but if something goes wrong, that decision can be questioned. In aviation, automated flight systems and protections built into aircraft from Airbus and Boeing guide control inputs. Pilots are trained to intervene, but deviations are logged, reviewed, analyzed. In finance and insurance, systems assess risk instantly, flagging decisions, approving, rejecting, recording every deviation from expected behavior. And those deviations don't just disappear, they're tracked, analyzed, compared over time, which means choosing differently doesn't just carry risk in the moment. It creates a record that can be questioned later. Across all these environments, something begins to shift, not authority itself, but what it means to go against the system. Because over time, the system becomes the default, and anything outside it starts to feel like a deviation. When systems consistently outperform human judgment, following them becomes the safer professional choice. You would follow it too, even if something didn't feel right. Because being wrong on your own carries more risk than being wrong with the system. A doctor reviews a recommendation. A system has already ranked the diagnosis, flagged the highest probability outcome, suggested a treatment path. The doctor hesitates, not because they disagree, but because going against it creates risk, professional risk, legal risk, career risk. The system doesn't need to force the decision, it only needs to change the consequences of ignoring it. Because once the consequences change, behavior follows. Not forced, not controlled, but adjusted, quietly, consistently, until the system's recommendation stops feeling like guidance and starts feeling like the only viable option. In aviation, flight control protections can physically prevent certain inputs if they fall outside safe parameters, not advising, restricting. In finance, automated risk systems can block transactions or approvals instantly, before a human can intervene. The decision doesn't wait, it executes. Before a person can reconsider, before context can be applied, before judgment has time to intervene. You felt this pattern. A system presents an answer, and instead of deciding, you align with it. Not because you're convinced, but because resisting it feels exposed. unprotected. Like stepping outside something designed to keep you safe. The cost of resisting it feels higher. When systems determine which decisions are acceptable, human judgment becomes conditional rather than final. And once judgment becomes conditional, authority is no longer fully human. Authority hasn't disappeared, it's been reassigned toward the system, toward the logic that defines what is allowed, what is safe, what is acceptable. You still make decisions, but inside boundaries set elsewhere, predefined, measured, enforced through consequence. And once those boundaries are in place, they don't need to be explained. They shape behavior automatically, because the safest decision is already known, and the system is built to guide you toward it. When systems define acceptable decisions, authority follows optimization, not individuals. And optimization has a different goal. Not understanding, not intuition, not context, consistency, risk reduction. Predictability, that changes what authority feels like, because it no longer comes from someone who understands the situation. It comes from something that has already calculated it. And once that becomes normal, the safest person in the room isn't the one who understands. It's the one who follows the system. Not because they're right, because they're protected. And once protection becomes more important than judgment, something deeper shifts. You're no longer deciding what's right. You're deciding what's safest to follow. If the system defines what decisions are acceptable, what does it mean to disagree? If this felt uncomfortable, it's because human judgment has always been seen as the final authority. Now, in some environments, that authority is being constrained. Tap like if this helped you recognize a shift that's already happening. Subscribe to become part of the Unlocked, where we explore how intelligence, systems, and power quietly reshape human control. And if someone you know still believes the final decision always belongs to a person, share this with them. Because the most important shift isn't that systems can advise, it's that they can now overrule. Because the future isn't coming, it's already here.